video focuses on the transformations of exponential functions, a very important video for you to watch and take notes on. This first slide, you want to use a graphing calculator. So sometime on your own you can borrow one of mine if you don't have one. Remember our original function when we graphed it on the previous video, y equals 2x. What happens to my graph when I change it from a 3 to a 10 or a 1.3? So just, change it in the graphing calculator. What happens to your graph when it's a base 3, a base 10, or 1.3? Then, with the graphing calculator again, here is your same graph that we graphed already. What happens when you add a 1 or when you subtract a 2? Number 3, here is your function again. What happens when you subtract a 1 up into the exponent, or when you add a 2, or when you subtract a 3? What happens to that position? And these are leading us into the transformations on the next slide. Here is your original function. What happens when you put a negative in the power? And then again, here is our original function. What happens when you multiply by 3 or multiply by 1/2? So try those out on your own, just with the graphing calculator. You would enter your original function and then change it to times it by 3, times it by 1/2, and notice what happens with the graph. All right, let's go ahead and write these down. So here is our original function, and there are some transformations that exist. An a, what happens when you multiply by an a? And your b is greater than 1. It's going to increase over time. So kind of like when we graph that function y equals 2 to the x, it increases over time. If we change that b value to a fraction, so something like y equals 1/2 x, the graph is going to decrease over time. And then when your a is negative, so something like this, y equals -2 to the x, it's going to decrease over time. And when your a is negative but you have a fraction, it's going to look like this, increase over time. All right, so let's talk about the important pieces of transformation. So the first piece I want to talk about is what happens if I were to change the parent function. So I'm just going to graph this original parent function quickly for us. If this is over 0 up 1, and then I have my next one over 1. So how I get that order of pairs, I substitute 0 in for x, and I plug it in here. I'm going to get 0, 1. If I let x equal 1 in for x, I get 1, 2. Let's just focus on those first 2 points here. So now here's over 1 up 2. So there is our parent function, just a couple points. If I add a 4 to the end, if you remember that, it's going to move this original parent function up 4 units. So if this is 0, 1, I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. So there's my new order pair, 0, 5. And then this next point here is going to be over 1 up 6. And there's my new graph. I do have that asymptote originally here at y equals 0. Now it's going to be pushed up 4 units to y equals 4. Second example in the red. So let's just quickly graph that parent function again. Over 0 up 1, and then over 1 up 2. If we minus 3, what that does is it takes its original critical point and moves it down 3 units. So here would be 1 unit, there would be 2 units, here would be 3 units. So that point then is over 0 down 2. And my next point is right here at over 1 down 1. And then my asymptote is 3 units down at y equals -3. So that takes care of our vertical transformations up and down. Let's talk about the horizontal, left and right. So I'll just quickly graph the parent function again. 0, 1, over 1 up 2, for both of these. So there's my parent. So now we have a -3. So that's what we call inside the function. It's a -3, so you have to think opposite. So it's going to move it to the right 3 units. So if here is my critical point, right 3 would be 1, 2, 3. Just going to erase those little dots here. So my new point then is over 3 up 1. And then this next point is over 4 up 2. We'll do this one in purple. So now again, this is up inside the function. It's in the exponent. Think opposite again. So we're going to move left 4. So here's my critical point. Left 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So there's where my point will be, my critical point. And that point is -4, 0. Just going to erase those little purple dots here so I don't get confused. And then the next point would be right 1, up 1 at -3, 2. And that is covering vertical translations and horizontal translations.